What if the building material of the future is trash? Around the world, entrepreneurs grind waste up, melt it down, and squeeze it into bricks. These recycled bricks can pave roads, pad playgrounds, and build homes and schools. Here are 5 countries using garbage to build stuff. This is melted plastic mixed with sand.
It has to look like poo. Ideally speaking, it's very visual like that.
And it becomes as hard as concrete once a hydraulic press squeezes it into shape. A company in Nairobi wants to install these plastic bricks on streets across Kenya's capital. Nzambe Mate opened her company, Jijenge Makers, in 2018.
So Jijenge is a Swahili word which translates to build yourself.
The factory processes 3 of the 7 types of single-use plastics.
Here on my right, these are the hard plastics, and here on my left, these are the soft plastics.
Kenya has one of the world's toughest bans on plastic bags, but bottles and other containers are still everywhere. This is where workers sort them. They can handle about 10 metric tons of plastic every month.
So this is the guy who starts our production. Without him, we are nothing. So big up.
Vinny operates the crusher, which pulverizes plastic into small pieces.
Just crush it, very loud.
Workers fold the dry mix together with a shovel.
Depending on the color you want, this is a stage at which you put the color pigment. And then after that, it's fed on the extruder.
This machine heats the plastic and sand mixture until it's soft enough to mold.
This is one of my proudest moments as a person, as a team member, and also as the founder of Jijenge. So what you see here, the machine and all the others, we fabricated here in Jijenge. It is mixed together at very high temperatures. So it ranges anything from 300 to 400 degrees centigrade, where it mixes that plastic and sand and forms a gooey, like a dough-like material. And that's what we make the brick with.
Each lump of the mixture is weighed by hand. People say the smell is something like new asphalt on a hot day.
So the brick currently Joseph is producing is a 1.3 kilogram. So that's what he's measuring. He's measuring 1.3 kilogram of the mixture.
This hydraulic press can squeeze 9 bricks at a time.
Ideally speaking, it's like baking a cookies. And this here is Lawrence. He's the guy with the magic touch, so I'll let him do his thing.
At this point, the bricks need to cool, so they can harden at room temperature.
So here is the curing bay. So once we take from the hydraulic press, we feed it in the curing bay, and then after like about 2 to 5 minutes, you have a finished product.
Many bricks come off the press with jagged edges. A worker breaks them off on a large stone before adding the finished bricks to a stack. For now, Jijenge's output is modest.
We need to increase our production to mass produce what we are doing currently. Right now we are doing like around 1,500 blocks a day.
That's about enough bricks to cover a courtyard, like the one at this community center.
For me, I think the price is cheaper and affordable compared to other materials used to make pavements.
A pallet of 400 plastic pavers can sell for up to $150, depending on thickness. The company says that's about 25% cheaper than bricks made from concrete.
We're also working on manhole covers. The other one is roofing tiles. The other one is drainage gutters. And also in addition to that, we're targeting also to improve and optimize the technology. Because I get the feeling we are only doing like a really small portion of it, and there's so much potential that this technology has that we are yet to realize, and this is just the beginning.
Turning waste into pavement is an idea that's already caught on in other countries. Construction workers in India have been mixing small amounts of plastic waste into asphalt for decades, making new roads that are stronger and that last longer. But experts say these innovations may increase the amount of plastic released into the environment.
Roads are subject to constant abrasion. We drive on them, right? And so roads are actually the primary source of microplastics in the environment.
Even on pure asphalt roads, the paints used to make lines contain plastic, and particles rub off the tires on vehicles every time they dry.
Now, if we build the entire road out of plastic or even part of the road out of plastic, that is going to be more abrasion of plastic and more microplastics going into the environment.
In recent years, researchers have found microplastics in nearly every sample of our food, drinking water, the air we breathe, and even inside our bodies. Tangri says that any solution that doesn't focus on decreasing the amount of new plastic going into production lets the people who created the problem off the hook.
The petrochemical industry would like nothing better than to say, we can put it all into roads, or we can do something else with it.
Still, roads made with plastic are cheaper, mainly because they require less asphalt. And they make good use of plastic that would otherwise end up in places like Dandora, Nairobi's only official landfill.
The cars that bring these plastics are more every day, they come every day.
It reached full capacity 20 years ago, but new garbage keeps coming in.
As you can see, most of the waste here is plastic waste.
Amos Wamanya is an environmental activist and renewable energy consultant.
We even have the smokes and all that being plastic being banned, which is very problematic to the health.
In Nairobi's poorest areas, there are no sanitation services. Many people toss garbage into rivers or just burn it, as much as 750 tons every day.
Kenya does not have enough infrastructure to allow recycling.
But that didn't stop American oil lobbyists from proposing a trade deal to export millions of tons of plastic waste to Kenya.
The American Chemistry Council was advising the U.S. representatives within the trade deal negotiations to include a clause that would allow plastic materials to be imported to Africa through Kenya.
Nzambi knows that her invention can't tackle a mountain of trash that large. So far, her factory has recycled 50 metric tons of waste this year, but Nairobi produces 6 times that amount of plastic trash every single day.
We need variant solutions. So I cannot say this is the solution in terms of like, does the biggest impact and all that stuff? No. Does it have an impact? Yes. Do we need to do more? Definitely.
Still, she is continuing to expand her business.
Nzambi being the founder of Jijenge motivates me a lot. She wants to achieve a lot in life. She wants to achieve a lot for the company.
In 2020, the United Nations recognized Nzambi as a young champion of the earth and awarded her $10,000. And she says her company is closing a $500,000 seed funding round.
We have more demand that we can supply. And that's because there's a lot of market awareness and market uptake that is coming in. And once again, as I said, with the shipmental shift with consumption, but we cannot produce that.
She employs 20 people full-time, nearly all of them under 30 years old.
Me, my team, and everyone else in this space, we get to earn a living, and that I'm happy with.
Most of her customers are local, including her mother, who is also an entrepreneur. She just started a business raising egg-laying hens in her backyard.
They are very peaceful birds. Yeah, I've got 1,200. Yes.
Nzambi's first experiments with plastic trash took place here. Now, her bricks cover the entire driveway.
Even outside, she has done this up to outside the compound. And we are very grateful. Now we live in a very good place.
Eventually, Nzambi wants her business to grow internationally.
Plastic waste is not just a Kenya problem, it's not a Nairobi problem, it's a worldwide problem. And so if we can figure out how to solve it in our local, then it's easy to replicate that solution to maybe to start to the East Africa region, and then to the greater part of the world.
And her biggest fans support the future she's building, one brick at a time.
As a mother, I'm very proud about her. Na magugu.
This is one of Nigeria's first tire recycling businesses. Workers start by ripping out the steel wires so the rubber can be cut, shredded, and turned into bricks for driveways and playgrounds.
This is softer and actually a bit bouncier.
Ifedolapo Runshewe started Free Recycle back in 2018. Now, her company recycles hundreds of tires per day.
We have over 400,000 tires stockpiled on site.
But it's only a tiny slice of the problem. Humans throw out around 1 billion tires every year. Recycling them gets expensive and complicated. So in most countries, they just pile up in landfills. And here in Nigeria, they can help spread malaria.
We have stagnant water that can then become a breeding ground for mosquitoes.
So why is it so hard to recycle tires? And why are tire graveyards so dangerous? More than half of all the cars in Nigeria are in and around its biggest city, Lagos. So there's a good chance old tires will end up with a roadside mechanic like Samuel.
Maybe you are going on the road, you have flat tire, I will repair it for you.
He saves any tire he can't fix to sell to Free Recycle. Samwe and other shop owners, like Adams, make about 30 cents for each tire.
It's good, because this tire is condemned before, cannot use for anything before. So, but now I can sell for free company.
Today's haul will be stored in the lot behind Free Recycle's 2.5-acre facility. When Ifedolapo wanted to launch the business, no one believed she could make money out of a pile of tires.
They kind of looked at us like we're crazy, and generally that was the reaction.
But now she has more than 100 full-time employees, and the business makes about 16 cents for every recycled tire.
My first tire, the first baby, was recycled in October 2020.
The first challenge is removing the steel wires embedded within the rubber. So one of her first investments was this machine called the D-Beater, which removes them in about 20 seconds. Next, the tires head to this chopper, which cuts each one into 4 or 5 pieces, making them easier to work with. The company can process about 150 car tires per hour. The same things that make tires durable also make them hard to recycle. In the 1800s, Charles Goodyear accidentally dropped rubber treated with sulfur onto a stove and discovered a process to harden the material called vulcanization. It made rubber stronger and resistant to extreme temperatures. Exactly what cars need out of tires. As more Americans started driving, rubber production exploded in the early 20th century. And most of it came from plantations in Southeast Asia. And then World War II happened.
The verdict is in on rubber. The enemy now has over 90% of the world's source of raw rubber.
The Allies needed a lot of rubber for trucks, cars, and planes. The U.S. asked its major manufacturers to find an additional source.
Synthetic rubber, one of wartime's newest industries, one of America's modern miracles.
Today's tires are a blend of natural and synthetic rubber, reinforced with metal and plastic fibers to make them more durable. But no matter how tough they are, they don't last forever, and all of the old rubber quickly piled up. By the end of the 20th century, the U.S. had accumulated well over 1 billion old tires. In landfills, they can leach toxins, and when buried, they can sometimes trap methane or other gases and literally float to the surface. They also burn fairly easily. In 1987, about 30 acres of tires caught fire in Colorado. It took almost a week to put them out, and the incident brought this kind of waste into the national spotlight. Within a few years, all but 2 states passed laws that helped fund a new tire scrap industry. By 2021, the U.S. had reduced the number of stockpiled tires to just 50 million. Now, America burns 1/3 of its used tires to fuel cement kilns and paper mills, and another third are turned into rubber surfaces like artificial turf. Less than 20% ends up in landfills. But in developing countries like Nigeria, tire waste is still a growing problem. The country ranks in the bottom 10% worldwide for recycling and sustainability. But Free Recycle is aiming to change that. At the factory outside of Lagos, the shredder rips tires into chunks. These drums crush them into even smaller pieces. Workers rake the remnants over vibrating screens. And large vacuums prevent rubber dust from filling the factory air. Pieces 5 millimeters and smaller fall through. Larger chunks go back through the process and get crushed again. Magnets pull out any remaining metal shards.
So here is the fiber separator where the fibers are being separated from the chrome rubber.
These are reinforcement fibers, usually made of plastic, nylon, or some other synthetic material. Now, all that remains is rubber. The final vibrating screen separates the different sizes. Powder, which will give a softer feel suitable for playgrounds and gyms, and 3 to 5 millimeter crumbles, which are durable enough to use for driveways. To make those pavers, rubber crumbs twirl inside heated mixers. A polyurethane binder helps hold everything together. It took a long time to figure out the right ratio that could work in Nigeria's tropical savanna climate.
A mix or formulation that would work in, let's say, Europe, wouldn't necessarily work here. So, you just have to find what works best.
Dyes adjust the color. A small layer of the colored mixture goes into the mold first. Then the rest of the brick is filled in with undyed rubber mix, which helps cut down on manufacturing costs. Then it is pressed down by hand and loaded onto trays.
After loading it, it's being rolled to the hydraulic press where we press all the mixed material for proper compression.
Finally, it sits in an oven to dry for up to 8 hours. Nigeria's unreliable electric grid means the factory has to make most of the power it uses.
80% of our power is generated internally from diesel power generating sets.
Workers tap the dried pavers out of the molds. On a typical day, they make roughly enough pieces to cover an entire tennis court. Every tire produces about 25 of these dog-bone-shaped rubber bricks. Now, they're ready to ship. Scrap tires have become a $12 billion global industry. In the US, Europe, and Japan, most get recycled, and many are burned to create energy. Tire-based fuel costs less than natural gas and burns cleaner than coal. But it still produces emissions comparable to other fossil fuels. In another method called pyrolysis, tires are heated to extreme temperatures without oxygen. Advocates claim it's the cleanest way to recycle them, but it requires a lot of energy, leaving small profit margins. In the US, a third of recycled tires become new surfaces in homes and playgrounds or mulch for gardens. In response to public concerns about shredded rubber leaking toxins, one US federal agency said it couldn't prove there were any health risks, but it recommended that kids should not eat the rubber. Sound advice. Back in Lagos, Free Recycle's top-selling items are paving stones used in playgrounds like this one at an international school.
We've been very happy with their service. The product's good.
The thick rubber provides a nice bounce for children at play, but also makes repairs and additions easier.
If you want to add more services or add more structures, you just remove it and when you're finished, put it back.
While Free Recycle aims to eliminate all of Nigeria's tire dumps, for now, this waste stream is still growing. But that's not Ifedolapo's only concern. The mother of two is raising a family and a business together. She says Free Recycle is on the verge of becoming profitable, and she continues building it brick by brick.
I think she's like a natural fixer. She saw a problem. She found a solution. Charming, but she's disturbingly efficient.
She plans to expand throughout the country, as well as Rwanda, Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Kenya.
I would like to see us tackling more waste, different types of waste, your paper waste, electronic waste, PET bottle. That's why our tagline is Waste to Wealth.
These bricks are made from seaweed. The secret is sargassum, an invasive species washing up and rotting on beaches around North America. The massive waves can lead to respiratory problems and can cost millions to clean up. But where most people see a problem, Omar Vasquez saw potential. He turns the seaweed into bricks strong enough to build homes that he says can withstand hurricanes.
Lo primero que pensé fue empezar a donar casas, ya que mi madre Mis hermanos y yo nunca tuvimos un techo propio.
Omar and his family immigrated to the US with nothing in their pockets when he was just 8 years old. Now, he uses his bricks to build homes for low-income families, like the Lopezes.
Pues tenemos cada una nuestro cuarto. Y es algo bonito porque siempre desde chiquitas lo habíamos soñado.
Could this invention help other countries clean up their coastlines? We went to Mexico to see how entrepreneurs like Omar are making the most out of a stinky situation. Omar and his team start collecting the seaweed at 5 a.m. Today, they're in Puerto Morelos, a small beach town about 25 miles from Cancun.
Cuando llega todo el sargazo, lo primero que hizo la gente fue quejarse. Que huele mal, apesta, tiene pulga, tiene todo.
Hotels pay them to get the seaweed off the beach and out of the view of tourists. They collect about 40 metric tons of sargassum every day, enough to fill 2 of these containers.
En una noche se acumula todo eso. Hay que darle muy duro a la chamba para poder acabar con el sargazo. Se está incrementando más.
The idea to turn seaweed into bricks came to Omar in 2018, when more than 50,000 metric tons of sargassum overran the coast.
Y al principio fue hacerlo de manera manual y artesanal, como se hacía el adobe. La impresión de ellos es no creer. Es como que, ¿cómo puede ser?
Omar makes the bricks, which he calls sarga blocks, at his workshop, 10 minutes from the beach. Workers grind the dry sargassum into a fine powder by smashing it with rocks. Then they mix it with dirt, which Omar repurposes from construction sites. They shovel a mixture of sargassum dust and dirt through a grate to remove any large chunks. They mix the powder with water to form a thick paste. The exact recipe is a secret, but each brick is about 40% sargassum. Sarga blocks can also be recycled again and again.
Se te rompe, lo vuelves a moler y lo vuelves a fabricar.
With this single machine, Omar can make up to 3,000 bricks a day. He developed 8 prototypes before perfecting this one. Now, he's designing a bigger machine that could produce 8,000 bricks a day. He has 6 full-time employees making the bricks, and some help build homes too.
Eso sí es difícil, pero pues ahora sí que hemos visto la cara de las personas cuando se han donado luego casas o cosas así, y te llena, ¿no? Esa parte, se te olvida lo otro.
Since 2018, Omar has built more than 40 homes. The first one is right next to his workshop. He named it after his mother.
Aquí estamos en Casa Angelita, la primera casa en el mundo hecha a base de sargazo.
When he was 8 years old, Omar left behind a home just like this one to cross the Mexico-US border with his mother.
Esta casa me recuerda mucho mi infancia, mi niñez, ya que es una réplica de la casa de mis abuelos. En este lado era una cocinita, me acuerdo perfectamente, una sala comedor que se me hacía enorme y un baño.
They wouldn't have a home of their own for the 30 years they lived in the US.
El sueño americano es un sueño muy doloroso. Fue una vida complicada al vivir con una madre soltera, al no tener papá, al no tener un techo propio, caer el tema de las adicciones, del alcohol, de la droga. Pero bueno, siempre tuve en mi mente y en mi corazón regresar a México.
He finally returned to his home country for good in 2014 with just $55 in his pocket. He used it to start a business buying and selling plants. And he eventually saved enough money to buy this lot.
Pues es que estando aquí, estoy en mi casa, no tengo miedo a nada.
Developing sarga blocks required a lot of trial and error.
Pues mira, tengo en la mano el primer molde que utilizamos para los primeros adobes de sargazo.
Omar's business is called Vivero Blue Green. He makes most of his money selling plants and from hotels paying him to clean up the sargassum. He also sells his bricks and builds houses. He has sold more than 20 homes and given away another 15. Omar admits the houses may not be fancy, but they are durable.
Casa Angelita lleva 4 años y la pueden ver, hemos tenido huracanes, tormentas tropicales, hasta la intemperie y no ha pasado absolutamente nada.
That's good news for Elizabeth Del Carmen Bonolo Lopez and her daughters. Their home was destroyed in a hurricane in 2021. Omar helped them rebuild it with sarga blocks.
Una palapa que se me estaba cayendo, que no tenía yo nada, pues una casa de sarga block, que nos sentimos seguras, mis hijas y yo contentas, felices.
No huele mal, no trae bichitos, pues es más cómoda que cualquier casa. porque se ajusta al calor y al frío.
Indeed, research shows that seaweed is a great insulator that keeps homes cool in the summer and stores heat in the winter. Usually, Omar hears about people in need through a friend or local.
Pero ver la cara de las familias felices, híjole, eso sí no tiene precio.
And there's no lack of raw material. Over the past decade, waves of sargassum have gotten so large you can detect them from space. In 2020, the Mexican government collected 19,000 metric tons of sargassum from Quintana Roo's beaches. In 2021, it collected twice that amount.
Antes eran 3 meses por año que se empezó a ver el sargazo, 4 meses, y ahorita hemos visto temporadas que hasta 9 meses nos ha llegado el alga.
Studies show prolonged exposure can make it hard to breathe. In 2023, the Cancun Hotel Association set aside more than $20 million to remove it from beaches. And the problem goes beyond Mexico. The invasive weed has spread to shores across North America, in Florida, Texas, and other parts of the Caribbean. The exact cause of the increase isn't clear, but some experts blame high levels of nitrogen in the sea, a result of agricultural waste runoff and deforestation. So now, Omar's business is getting international attention. He's given TED Talks, appeared on Shark Tank Mexico, and traveled internationally to promote his product. Investors and businesses from over a dozen countries have reached out to learn from him.
Estados Unidos, a Belice, a Dominicana, Barbados, Martinica.
Omar is exploring licensing and franchising the Sargablock recipe to other businesses. Elsewhere in Mexico, other entrepreneurs are experimenting with new ways to use sargassum, like making notebooks and even shoes. A British startup called Seaweed Generation is using sargassum to capture carbon and store it at the bottom of the ocean. Back in Mexico, Omar is simply grateful to be living in his home country, surrounded by the people he loves. And after work, he returns to a home he built himself, using his own bricks. Omar hopes his success will inspire others.
Así es, que los mexicanos volteemos a ver hacia nuestro país, que volteemos a ver que también hay oportunidades. Si yo puedo, ustedes pueden hacerlo.
Hundreds of billions of milk cartons get thrown out every year. And a center in Thailand can recycle thousands per day into building materials. The cartons get turned into bricks or pressed into roofing. These kinds of boxes are really hard to recycle because of the layered mix of aluminum, plastic, and paper. But one of the world's largest producers is trying to make that easier. A Swiss-based company called Tetra Pak made 192 billion food and beverage containers in 2021. It started programs to keep a portion of those out of landfills. Here in Thailand, the company has set up collection drives at some schools.
การรีไซเคิลนะคะมีความสำคัญมากเลยค่ะเพราะว่าจากที่กล่องนมนะคะจะบอกว่าไม่ได้ไปทำอะไรเลยแบบว่าพอกินเสร็จก็ทิ้งอย่างนั้น
And some of the final building materials help rebuild homes for victims of natural disasters.
เราไปทำหลังคาให้กับผู้ที่ยากไร้อะค่ะเขาจะได้มีบ้านอยู่
So can the world's largest carton manufacturer make a difference in reclaiming the waste it makes? We visited Bangkok to find out how to fix a house using old cartons of milk. It's morning assembly time here at the Hua Mak School. Since the 90s, the Thai government has encouraged milk in schools in a country that traditionally didn't consume much dairy. 3 decades later, drinking milk is a daily habit for students like Chanikan.
เพราะว่าหนูเป็นคนตัวเล็กเลยอยากสูงก็เลยต้องชอบกินนม
This school goes through about 5,000 containers a month, and nearly all of them get recycled.
และทุกๆเช้าคุณครูก็จะให้ตัวแทนห้องเรียนมาแจกนมพอดื่มหมดแล้วนะคะก็พับกล่องนมตามวิธีที่คุณณัฐวัฒน์ได้สอนไว้ค่ะ
สอนนักเรียนนะครับให้รู้จักของการคัดแยกขยะแล้วเนี่ยก็ยังจะต้องเหมือนกับทำประโยชน์ให้กับสังคมด้วย
This educational campaign is sponsored by Tetra Pak, the packaging giant headquartered in Switzerland. The recycling program is active in over 400 Bangkok schools, as well as 150 drop-off points across the capital. But this is a fraction of the company's overall output. Tetra Pak says it's reclaimed 50 billion cartons in 2021, about a quarter of what they made in that year alone. The cartons end up here at Eco-Friendly Thai, a recycling company that specializes in beverage containers and used paper. The Ratchaburi plant processes about 12 million cartons a month. First, they have to be broken down to make it easier to separate the cardboard from the plastic and aluminum. The walls of the cartons made by Tetra Pak have 6 layers. All of them can be recycled on their own, but many recycling facilities don't have machines that can process them all at once. About 75% of a carton is paper, which provides structure. Polyethylene plastic makes up 20% and helps seal the packaging. The last 5% is aluminum. A thin foil helps keep the contents fresh and extends the product's shelf life. And a special heating process sterilizes both the product and the package, making some items shelf-stable for up to a year. The hydropulper breaks up the layers into tiny pieces. Then the boxes go through 3 filters to separate and remove the paper. Each filter is finer than the last. Any wastewater gets pumped back into the pulper.
น้ำที่ใช้ในกระบวนการรีไซเคิลสามารถกลับมาใช้ซ้ำได้
The remaining plastic and aluminum end up here at the dump screen. The pulp is trucked to another plant and will be turned into toilet paper and cardboard. Meanwhile, the leftover mix of polyethylene plastic and aluminum is headed to Eco-Friendly's plant in Notaburi. It's called Palial for short. First, workers crush it with a coarse grinder. Then it goes through another round of cleaning to filter out any remaining paper pulp. Next, a hot air dryer removes moisture. Workers feed it into a second grinder.
การบดละเอียดเนี่ยจะทำให้การผสมของวัสดุที่เรามีการผสมเรื่องสีหรือ additive นะครับทำให้มันสามารถคลุกเคล้าได้ดียิ่งขึ้น
Then it's ready for the extruder, which heats the ground material.
นะครับเพื่อจะทำให้มีความอ่อนตัวหรือว่ามีการรวมตัวกันได้ดีขึ้นนะครับออกมาเป็นก้อนนะครับ
Temperatures reach up to 392 degrees Fahrenheit. The compressor uses a cooling system to shape the polyol mix. It cools for 3 minutes in the mold, and voila, EcoBricks. But because most of the carton is paper, it takes a lot of them to make just one brick.
อิฐบล็อก1ก้อนเนี่ยประมาณน้ำหนักประมาณ2กิโลกว่าเนี่ยแทนกล่องเครื่องดื่มถึง500กล่องมันก็ช่วยลดขยะในชุมชนลดขยะในหลุมฝังกบ
The bricks will be ready for commercial sale in early 2023.
แล้วเราก็มีการที่จะเช็คตรวจสอบคุณภาพเรื่องสีแล้วก็เรื่องตกแต่งที่ตกแต่งบริเวณขอบนะครับของตัวพลาสติกนะครับก่อนที่จะนำส่งลูกค้านะครับ
They also sell the polyol to companies like Advanced Mat, which converts the mixture into plastic pellets. The company makes chairs, roofing sheets, and insulation.
ตัวฉนวนที่เป็นโพลีอะลูนนะครับข้อดีของมันก็คือเราใช้ส่วนที่เป็นอลูมิเนียมก็จะไม่ขึ้นสนิมสามารถนำไปใช้ในพื้นที่ที่อยู่ติดชายทะเลได้
Tetra Pak has donated nearly 70,000 roofing sheets to help victims of natural disasters. And the aluminum from the polyol helps cool the homes.
Making the roof sheets out of this material help actually to protect the heat from the sun. At the same time, with the property of polyethylene that we have in our material, it also helps the material to be strong.
Tetra Pak has been donating their milk carton roofs to places like the Chakdang Temple.
พอฝนลมแรงมากิ่งไม้หักถ้าเป็นกระเบื้องมาก็อาจจะมีแตกมีร้าวมีทะลุถ้าเป็นหลังคากล่องนมเนี่ยโดยมากจะทนไหวอยู่
The Abbot has also purchased sheets of the polyol material for other roof repairs. He says the milk carton panels are more durable than his old roof tiles.
อดีตสำคัญก็คือเสียงไม่ดังนะเวลาฝนตก
The office in the back is mostly made of recycled polyol, from the roof to the wall cladding.
อาคารเรียนต่อไปในอนาคตก็จะใช้หลังคาจากกล่องนม
In 2021, Tetra Pak spent less than 1% of its annual revenue on recycling programs. The company says it plans to invest about $100 million each year over the next decade to increase the amount of recycled material that goes into new packaging. Their Thailand recycling program started in 2006, but it's been hard to raise awareness.
เรายังไม่ตระหนักว่ากล่องนมรีไซเคิลได้สองก็คือเราให้เป็นภาระของคนที่เก็บขยะเพื่อให้เขาแยกออกมา
Tetra Pak admits it still has a long way to go.
We can make an improvement in the bigger scale in terms of climate impact and also biodiversity. We also want to expand in terms of recycling products that we can manage and we can produce in order to be able to contribute more to the communities.
This rock-hard beam is made from hard-to-recycle plastic, like grocery bags, bottles, and even electronics. A company called Conceptos Plásticos takes plastic basically no one else wants and turns it into building materials. The finished bricks interlock like life-size Legos. The company makes it easier for locals to earn money picking waste out of dumps or off the street.
On travaille dit, ils donnent nous l'argent cash.
The mission? To improve the lives of waste collectors and turn trash into something useful, like this schoolhouse. Plastic is piling up in Ivory Coast, a country, like many around the world, that has almost no formal recycling programs. Could these building materials be the solution? We went to West Africa to find out how to make schools out of worldwide waste. Fatoumata is one of thousands of self-employed waste collectors in Ivory Coast.
Tous les jours, ce que tu veux, faut barra seulement. Si tu as bon santé, on barra.
She gathers plastic from this dump site in Abidjan, the country's biggest city. And she likes what she does.
Ça me plaît beaucoup. Dieu n'a qu'à faire toujours monter, plus que ça là même. Parce que là, qu'on a trouvé là.
She's part of an informal collective of waste pickers trained by Conceptos Plásticos. They gather many types of plastic, including stuff other recyclers won't take.
Sac ou, ça c'est noir ou bleu ou, sac là ou tout, ça donne l'argent. Si tu as croisé, ça donne l'argent.
Fatoumata says that since joining the company's training program, she makes about 4 times as much as she used to. Collectors get paid at a local sorting site after workers there weigh and log each bag. Conceptos Plásticos pays 100 CFA francs, or about 16 cents per kilogram of plastic.
We try to avoid intermediaries and we try all the time to empower directly the people that is collecting the plastic in the street.
Then it's time to start sorting. They take out pieces that can't be used for bricks, like PVC, which can release toxic fumes when melted.
All the time we are getting material that we cannot transform, PVC or some kind of PET. So that's also their work is to sort again and check again which kind of plastic we are getting and take out the PVC.
After sorting, they load plastic into a crusher. By flattening the waste, about 4 times as much fits in each truckload to the factory. This facility can process about 40 standard garbage trucks worth of plastic each month. Workers load hard plastics, like these from electronics, on a conveyor belt, which carries them to a crusher.
Every time that you work with plastic, you need to have a small size. We have crushers just to take the plastic maybe 5 millimeter size.
The crushed chips go into a hopper, then travel down the line to be melted. Soft plastics, like grocery bags, go through different machines, but the process is similar. They're shredded into tiny pieces and melted down later. The final mixes combine different categories of plastic in specific ratios.
We have 2 different kind of mixes, one mix for bricks and other one for columns, for structural elements. We have small percentage of some additives to help the plastic in the machine and everything.
The company keeps those recipes a secret, hidden from our cameras behind this curtain, along with the equipment that makes bricks.
Behind the wall, we have all the technology and the molds that we develop. That's the way we do the bricks.
But they did show us how beams and columns are made by pushing the hot mixture into long molds. Workers lower them into water to cool things down.
La moule pour charger. Donc, quand on finit de charger, on plonge dans l'eau. Quelques minutes après, on fait sortir le poteau.
They remove this rod, and the mold pushes out a beam.
Si tu es distrait, ça peut te poser un truc. Donc, il faut être concentré de ce que tu fais. Le reste, ça.
The team cuts the beam into shorter segments and drills holes at each end. Any leftovers, like the rough end pieces, go through the whole process again. This school was made from the recycled building blocks in 2019.
Bonjour les tout petits. Ça va?
Les enfants, ça change beaucoup de choses parce qu'ils sont dans un environnement très aéré. Il n'y a pas de chaleur et ça résiste aux aléas climatiques.
And there are more than 300 classrooms made with Conceptos bricks around the country. Oscar Mendez and Isabel Cristina Gomez started the company in 2010. They're based in Colombia, but in 2019, they got a call from UNICEF, asking them to expand their business to another country in need, Ivory Coast. According to the UN, more than 1 million Ivorian children don't go to school. And sometimes it's because they simply don't have a place to go. Classrooms are too far away or too crowded.
Normally they're for 50 children, and you can find them up to 80 or so. Teachers, they say that it's impossible to give lessons and to teach in a normal way.
Each one of these takes about a month to build.
The government, they loved the project from the very beginning, mostly because it was quick. Construction here in Ivory Coast, they can take up years.
The government estimates that Ivory Coast needs about 30,000 more classrooms just like this one to end the shortage. So, is there enough plastic trash to build all those? Technically, yes. The city of Abidjan likely creates enough waste each day to build about 45 classrooms. Collecting, sorting, and transforming all that plastic is the hard part.
We need to design a really good sorting process here. Okay, take this out and bring bottles. Bring the bottles, but tell the guy, take this out, chop chop.
Oscar says bringing this process into more communities could be the key.
We are solving local problems and the solution should be local. We are trying to see how can we go down with the really small scale and go directly to the people who can maybe make their own bricks and their own products.
He says the company has transformed more than 3,000 metric tons of Ivory Coast plastic since it got started here. In the long run, solving the plastic problem means making less of it. But for the foreseeable future, the waste has to go somewhere. And ultimately, the work is about a lot more than using up trash.
We are doing good things for the environment and for people. We are really happy to see how people is changing their lives.
Their faces, their looks, they tell everything. Because for the very first time, they have something that is their own.
Est-ce que vous n'êtes pas content d'être dans cette classe? On est content, non? Si vous êtes content, on applaudit. Voilà. Bien travaillé.